Hi, everybody. Welcome to my lecture on the course introduction for IS439 in the spring of 2024. And if you're playing this, I'm hoping that right before you play this, you play the video on how to play my videos, tips and tricks. And the reason why I think it's important to play that is that um, my videos are on the slow side. That's my delivery style, and that really tells you how to speed them up and control that. And if you haven't played that, uh, please leave here, go play that. It's not that long, and come back, and you'll be happy you did. Okay? All right. So, what are we doing here? Well, we're introducing the course for spring 2024. So let's do that. Okay, so here's the agenda here. Instructor introduction, I'm going to introduce myself. Then I'm going to go through a few important facts about the course. I'm going to review the Canvas site. Hopefully you've already had a peek at it, but I'm going to walk you through it. There's a document for the course that called the road map, and there's a link to it in week 1 of our weekly schedule. And I'm going to review that. That, I think, gives you a good overview of all that we're going to do. After that, I'm going to review the weekly schedule, but not the whole thing because I'll have given you the big picture with the roadmap. So I'll just walk you through the mechanics of the schedule and leave you to do the rest of it. And then the very last thing is we're going to review the syllabus and then I'll wrap up a bit. Okay? So, instructor introduction. So, I'm Kevin Trainer. If you want to get to information about me, I have a faculty page at the iSchool, and it's a good place to get to information about me. There's a copy of my resume, a link to my LinkedIn and my Twitter feed. There's a link to the website for my little consulting firm, and there's a lot of links there to other things. Okay, so if you want to find out about me, there's a lot of content that you can find your way to. Okay, and I invite you to do that. Um, So what will you find there? Well, you find that I've been teaching here at the iSchool since 2008, so that's going on 16 years. And most of that time I was an adjunct and I was doing full-time stuff somewhere else, uh, running a consulting practice, teaching full-time at the iSchool in Milwaukee. But I've been teaching here full time for about 3.5 years, and this is my favorite job. Okay, so I'm very happy to be here. Um, I teach a bunch of very practical hands on courses that um, address uh, developing information systems. So I teach this course, IS439, Web Development for Using Application Frameworks, in which we learn about application frameworks in general, and we learn about working with one very popular one called Django, Django in particular. Um, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to doing that with you. But other courses I teach at the iSchool include IS430, which is the first course in programming using Python 3, IS455, which is a database design and prototyping course, which is a first course in relational databases. IS446, which is a systems analysis and design course. IS 597 MLC, which is a machine learning cloud course. And sometimes I also teach a project management course. Um, the kind of stuff I teach about is the kind of stuff that I either did in industry for a long time, or I taught people how to do it, or I, I managed people who did it. It's the kind of stuff that I love to do. That's especially true for this course. I've got quite a few, well, I have a handful of web apps that I work on that are implemented in Django. And so I'm very interested in uh, web frameworks in general and Django in particular. I get a lot of fun teaching people how to do things that I love to do, and that's really my motivation for teaching this course. So I'm looking forward to helping you get started in this. So that's me. A few facts about the course. So this is a course in which we learned about back-end web frameworks in general. We're working with Django, which is a kind of web framework specifically. Our approach in this class uses the flipped classroom model. So I might do a little bit of lecturing in class, but for the most part, the lecturing that I do will be pre-recorded, like the recording that you're playing right now. This is a hands-on coding course where you're going to learn by doing. Uh, One of the things you're going to do a lot is we have a tutorial. We have one main tutorial project which we do called Easy University or EasyU, and I've created a bunch of tutorial videos, and most of the weeks of the course, you're playing the tutorial or tutorials for the week, and on some of the work, you're kind of following along with what I do, and then you complete the work by doing the rest of it on your own. There are 12 coding assignments. There's a paper, it's a framework evaluation paper, and there's a final project. The 12 coding assignments, there's one coding assignment that we get started with. It's a tutorial from one of our textbooks, the Vincent textbook. And then the rest of the coding assignments are tutorials from EasyU. And then there's a couple of assignments we do in which we're working on data modeling and logical database design. The framework evaluation paper is to evaluate the suitability of some other backend web framework other than Django for some set of requirements for a system that you choose. And the idea here is that there are no perfect web frameworks. There are a lot of web frameworks. There's a good 40 credible web frameworks. And so there's no way for us to teach you all the good ones, but we can talk about how to pick one. Okay, so we're using one that a lot of people consider to be good for uh, kind of general set of requirements. But um, one important skill we want you to have is to be able to think critically about, well, I have a set of requirements. Well, what framework could I choose for that? So that's what the paper's about. The final project is to design and build a Django application of your choosing. So you're going to pick a dynamic web application, preferably one that's kind of relational database oriented, because that's what Django's really good at. And you're going to figure out what that is and how it's going to work, and you're going to design it, and you're going to build it, and you're going to test it, and it's going to be all yours. And it's a lot of fun. So those are the elements of the course. Let's take a look at our Canvas site. You've probably already spent some time there. See where we are. Okay, so at the top we have our three most recent announcements. Okay, and then the rest of the page is organized maybe a little differently than the front pages of other Canvas pages for courses you've seen at the iSchool. The iSchool gives us a template to use, but I find it very busy and hard to follow. So I've come up with a template of my own. And this approach uses a thing called a modules page. So each of these content blocks is a module, and we have four of them. The topmost one has key information about the course. The second one, the contact us one, has information about me and the TA. The third one is where you're going to submit your assignments. And most of your assignments are going to be PyCharm projects. And PyCharm projects are represented in your computer by being a folder on your hard drive. And you're just going to zip them up, and you're going to take that zip file, and you're going to submit it to Canvas. We have a couple of other assignments that are not oriented like that, conceptual data modeling and logical database design, in which case you're going to be creating some entity relationship diagrams that are going to be, I think they're PDF documents, and you're going to submit those to Canvas. And here's where all that's going to get done. Okay. And then the last of these content blocks is for each of the assignments, I am going to, right before the class in which we discuss the solutions to the assignments, I'm going to give you a copy of my solution. Okay. And a part of what we're going to do is uh, we're going to sort of answer any questions that you have about maybe how my solution might be different than yours. In this particular course, because of the fact that we're doing follow the leader on a lot of these assignments, there's not really going to be a lot of deviation. But I am going to be giving this to you. Okay, so that's what's in our Canvas site. So let's go back to our slides and see what's next. So the next thing is this roadmap document. So let's take a look at that. And let's see if we can make it just a little bigger. Okay, I think that's good. Um, so um, this is organized by week of the class, and there's a lot of overlap between the information that's in here and the information that's in our weekly schedule. Okay. Um, the weekly schedule is the authoritative place to go. Okay. It has more detail, and it's the one we're going to maintain over the life of the course. It's not particularly good for seeing the big pictures, the big picture, which is why I compile these roadmaps. Okay. Um, the spring semester, as does every fall or spring semester at Illinois, it has 17 weeks. The 17th week is kind of a phony week. It has a couple of days of exams, and it has the graduation and all that kind of stuff. It's never a real week for doing work. The real weeks are 1 through 16. Okay. And we have off week 9 as spring break. Okay. And we're going to be working the rest of them. Okay. Um, so the way I've got this organized is you can see the topic, which is kind of what we're doing for the week. Okay. I don't have in-class activities in here. Generally speaking, in-class activities are going to have three components. One is if we had an assignment, okay, um, if it's a follow the leader assignment, as a lot of them are, well, then we're just going to talk through we're going to talk through the assignment and see if people have questions or problems. Okay. Um, and then we're going to go on to do something else. The second kind of activity that we do is we have some kind of a breakout group-oriented session in which we talk about some important aspect of the course. Like, for instance, there's a couple of the weeks where we will be brainstorming about our final projects. There's a couple of other weeks in the breakout where we'll be brainstorming about the paper. Okay, and so I didn't have the time to copy all these over here. Once we've got the final projects and the paper going, and we're moving along on, um, once we begin to work on our weekly assignments for our major tutorial, which began right here in week 3, where uh, we start to work on the conceptual data model for our Easy University tutorial, which is called Easy U. Okay, so once we begin to do that, um, again, if we've got questions of that tutorial in which you're going to be following the leader from my tutorial videos, we'll talk about that. But we're going to talk about, you guys are going to talk about things like, how's your paper going? Okay. And inevitably, some people have a hard time getting started. So why are you having a hard time getting started? I'm sorry, the paper's over here. But the final project too. People have a hard time getting started. They have a hard time focusing their ideas. People get stuck. It's the nature of this kind of work that you get stuck. And it's the nature of learning how to do it well that you learn how to get unstuck and get moving on. Because there's a balance, especially in these projects, there's a balance between taking more time and getting it right and taking less time, and maybe it's not going to be so perfectly right, but it'll be started, okay? And then maybe we can correct and refactor things later, okay? And it's not always clear when to spend a little bit more time now, okay, or whether to let it go now and catch up later on by refactoring some things. Okay. And this is the kind of stuff that really lends itself to talking about this in breakout sessions. And something that's particularly good is that seeing other people, okay, solve their way through the programs, through the problems that have us stuck is really good stuff. Okay, because I don't know about you, but sometimes my own problems can seem insurmountable. Okay, and talking to other people who are getting through those problems, provided that they're not rubbing my nose in it. And of course, that's part of the ground rules for these breakout sessions. They can be really helpful. It's like, well, those two did it. I could do it too. Right? So we're going to be using this. Now, in week 3, and again, it doesn't say it here because I didn't have the time to type all these things into this part of the roadmap. In week 3, we're going to be forming permanent breakout groups. Permanent in the sense that that'll be our group for the rest of the semester. Okay. And I've got instructions for this in a couple of places, but the fact is that we're in a really nice classroom in the campus instructional facility. There are very few prettier classrooms in the world. It's a beautiful place. And there's a coffee shop just across the way. You can see the coffee shop through the glass wall. So again, it doesn't get better than this. But so the number of tables and the number of chairs at the table in our classroom are going to determine how many groups we're going to have, how many people in each group. And in the weekly schedule, I gave you a reminder that says, if you decide that you want to be in a group with your friends, and of course that's not always the best strategy, okay, you can always talk to your friends, but if you're going to have preferences of other people you'd like to have in your group, I ask you to get that worked out by the time we get to class on week 3, because on week 3 we're going to form these continuing breakout groups. Okay. Now, I just want to mention that the final project is an individual project. Okay. Uh, this is something in which we're really trying to learn a skill ourselves, not just part of the skill. Okay. This isn't one of those courses where we're learning how to collaborate with a team. Okay. We've got plenty of courses like that, or certainly I teach plenty of other courses like that. This is where we really learn how to develop a web application, and we know how to do all the parts. Okay. Likewise with the paper. Okay, we're not working on the paper as a team. Each person's is going to work on their own paper, so that when you're done with this course and you get to your day job, if you have to do a project, well, you've already done one, a small one, but you've done it. And the same thing, if you have to pick a framework for some project, well, you've already thought that through yourself. So even though in these in-class activities we're going to be breaking up into groups and talking about a lot of stuff, the deliverables are all going to be individual oriented. And that the weekly assignments are going to be individual, the final project is individual, the paper is individual. And if you read through this, like the final project, in weeks 2 and 3, we're brainstorming about what you're going to do as your project. You're in a position to begin to develop your project starting in week 4. And what I assume is that The way that we do a project is that we do it in this order. We do the conceptual data model, then we do the logical database design, then we do the model, then we do the template, then we do the controller. So as we're learning these in class, we're going to be doing it on our big tutorial case, Easy University or EasyU. And what I'm recommending to you is that the next week you do the same thing on your own project. Okay. So the very last thing that we do for EasyU is in week 14, we deploy EasyU. Okay. And then I'm expecting you to turn around and deploy your application the week after. Well, you don't have to deploy your final project application. Um, we only deploy EasyU so you can see how that goes. Okay. But you would be ready to do that if you want to deploy it. You certainly can. But um, so ideally, on your final project, you're like 1 week behind the EasyU tutorial. Now, does everybody keep up with that exactly? No, quite honestly, they fall behind. Okay. And that's okay because we can catch up, right? But the idea is that you have to be fully caught up before the end. There's no way to do all of this in, say, the last 2 weeks of the course. I mean, people have tried. They don't get all the points for their final project. This is just too hard to do. Okay. So the idea is we're going to be working on this all the way along and talking about it as we go. With the paper, again, we're going to be brainstorming about what framework we might want to evaluate. Again, it's a back-end web framework other than Django. We're going to be brainstorming about that in weeks 4 and 5. Okay, and then you'll pick one and you'll begin to research it. Now, you might begin to research it and go, well, that's a dud. I want to do something else. Well, you've got time to switch your idea. But probably by week 10, when we come back from spring break, you ought to have an outline of your paper. You ought to know what you're doing. You ought to have research. You ought to have an outline. And then you ought to work on a first draft of your paper and then a second draft. And then you could do your final revisions in week 14, and then it has to be submitted towards the end of week 15. Okay, so we're doing these tutorials, uh, and then following along behind that, we're working on our final project, and off on another channel, we're working on the paper. Okay. And the whole time in these in-class activities, we're kind of reviewing things and asking questions and comparing notes and cheering each other on. And again, the steps that we do, the first week we do a startup for the course. The second week we do a tutorial from the Vincent book. It's kind of a starter tutorial. I don't want you to have to wait till we get to the end of EasyU to see the big picture. And the Vincent book is a good book and one that at a later time you can go do the rest of the work in this book, and he has 2 other books that you might be interested in. So Vincent is probably the top Django tutorial book person today. Now, a lot of our readings are in the Pinkham book because it's a little more extensive than the Vincent book. But Vincent is today's tutorial guy. Pinkham has a day job somewhere and he's not writing Django books anymore. But what he has there is good stuff. And then we're going to begin to work on the parts of doing a project. So conceptual data modeling, logical database design. Then we're going to create the Django model, which is the same as the physical database design. We're going to work on the Django template, the Django controller. Uh, the Django controller is the combination of the Django view and the Django URLs.py. Then we're going to link all the pages together. So once we finish with the link pages assignment, we're going to have a nice little uh, web app that we can show ourselves right before the spring break. We're going to come back in week 10. We're going to work on forms. Then we're going to work on pagination in static files. Then we're going to work on a kind of a Django view called generic class-based views. Then we're going to add authentication and authorization where people have to log in and they can only do the things that they're authorized to do. And then the last thing that we're going to go do is we're going to deploy. Week 15, the course wrap up. This is the last week we're going to have an in-person class, and we're going to debrief the deployment, and we're going to wrap up a bunch of things that we've been working on. And then in week 16, instead of having a class, we're going to have an extra online lab. And then the last thing that you submit, which is the final project, is going to be at the end of week 16. So there's a lot going on, but once you get your head around it, it's pretty easy to understand. And the reason I created the roadmap is I think this is sort of an easy way to get your head around it. Okay? So that is the roadmap. Okay, so let's go back to our slides. We've reviewed the roadmap. Let's take a look at the weekly schedule. So the weekly schedule is here, all right? So the weekly schedule is a web app that holds all the content having to do with the course. So readings, assignments, linked to lectures and tutorials, deadlines, it's all here, okay? So this covers the same information we just saw in the roadmap, but the roadmap is kind of a snapshot, large-scale view that helps me to describe the flow of the course in a way that you can't get here. But the definitive place to go for information about what the assignments are and where the content is the weekly schedule, okay? This is the index of weekly schedule pages for our course, so it's got all the weeks, okay? The week number is the link to get to the page, okay? So to go to the week 1 page, you click on the 1, okay? And when you get to the page, it's organized in the following way. We have these content blocks, and each of them is associated with some event that's happening during the week. Okay, so this first one is our class on Tuesday afternoon. Okay, and then the second one is on Friday afternoon from 3 to 4. We have an optional online lab. And then every Sunday evening at the end of the day, we have our weekly assignments deadline. Okay. In our case, we have a lot of things that I want you to work on to set up the computing environment. None of these have to be handed in. So these aren't hand-in assignments, but we're going to be using these things in week 2, so you better get to do them. Okay. So let's go back up and take a look at what's associated with the class. So we have the topics, the in-class activities. So we're going to have a Q&A regarding what we talked about here in this recording. And there's an activity where you're going to introduce yourself. The required readings are the syllabus and the roadmap. There's a link here to the Web Framework article and Wikipedia. That's a pretty good article. Required recordings. So there's this tips on playing the videos. I hope you've already played that. This is the lecture that I'm going to put the link up for when I'm done. And there's a lecture video on how to understand the participation grading scheme and its impact. Now, the participation grade is 15% of your overall grade, and it's a really important thing. And it's worth your time to play this, so please do. We have an in-person class, so I put up two resources I got from the Illinois safety people. A video on what to do when something bad happens on campus. It's called Run, Hide, Fight. And then there's a companion resource sheet. So please do look at those. They're not big or long, and it's worth your time. So a lot of our time in week one in class is going to be introducing ourselves, okay? And I've got some instructions here about how to prep for that. So please read this and do some thinking so that you're ready when we get to class. Now on Friday afternoons from 3 to 4, we're going to have an online lab, okay? And I say here what I say, please drop by to ask a question, to discuss solutions to previous assignments, to get help with the current assignment, to discuss the final project or the paper, or just to say hello. So people come for lots of different reasons, okay? So we have one on Friday afternoon from 3 to 4. Often our class doesn't take the full 2 hours on Tuesday. Okay, so at the end of class, whenever that is, I'm going to use the rest of the time for a lab session as well. And I can stay and talk to people even after the 2 hours is up. Now, I think our actual time that we have the room is longer than 2 hours, so they're not going to chase us right out of there. And even if they do, they're chasing us out into one of the nicer coffee shops on campus. So that's not that bad of a deal anyway. Okay. So, there are some people who come to the labs all the time. There are some people who only come to lab when they have something on their mind. There are some people who come to lab just to see what it's about. Okay, so use it as it's going to work for you. These things at the bottom here are all things I want you to do with your computer. And it looks like more than it actually is because I've got pretty detailed instructions and links to tutorials and other resources. But you have to choose your computer, and then you need to install Anaconda on it. And then even if you just install it, you have to update Anaconda. And especially if you already had Anaconda before, you need to update it. You don't want old Anaconda. You need to create an Anaconda virtual environment. This is one that you can use for all Python work. The tool that we're going to be using is PyCharm Professional, so you need to install that. Okay, and we've got different tutorials for Windows and Mac OS, in which I actually show these things being done on those operating systems. We need to create an Anaconda virtual environment for the work that we're going to do that's more closely related to this course, one for Django project, so we're going to do that. And then I've got a bunch of things related to Git. Okay. I've got learn about Git, install Git graphical client, um, sign up uh, for an account with a Git remote uh, repository service provider, and then we've got one more thing that's not Git related. So Git is a version control system, and a lot of you in the class have already worked with Git. You may be more facile with Git than I am. Okay. Well, if that's true, that's great. Okay. You might be new to Git though, and if you are, well, you got to get started. It's a basic skill that you need. Um, it's it's essential when you're working uh, on teams. Okay. Well, we're not really going to be working on teams a whole lot, but we're going to be working on teams some in our breakout sessions. Okay. Um, but it's more essential when you're just working on your own project than you know, because having a version control systems allows you to try things on your project that might break it. Okay. And then you can revert to the last version that you committed. So you can just be brave and break it. You know, you can move fast and break things as long as you commit your work at every step. And then when you move fast and break a thing, then you go, whoop, got to go back. Okay. Well, Git's a great way to do that. Now, one thing, I may change the language on here. Uh, Sign up for an account with a Git uh, remote repository provider. Sign up with GitHub. Okay, I had a conversation just yesterday with with the IT support folks at the iSchool, and they're going to get us access to um, a kind of an address space for Git repositories that'll just be for our course. And the best way to access that is for you to have a GitHub account that you've associated with your university email ID. Okay, so then once I add you to this thing that they're going to get for us, when you go to GitHub and you sign in with your university email address, uh, before I connect you, well, then you're just going to see your own repositories. Okay. After I connect you, you're going to see both your stuff and the stuff from the class. Okay. And it's going to be a real nice way. It'll be a good place to put your project, for instance. It'll be a good place to put the the uh, the EasyU tutorial project, and then also we're going to do some work in the breakout sessions, and I didn't really talk about this before. Um, some of the work that we're going to do is going to have to do with unit testing the EasyU project. Okay. And one of the things I'm going to have the groups work on in class is further developing the unit tests for EasyU. And then we're going to compare notes and stuff like that. Now, will we do that every class? Um, Quite a few. Okay. This so what I'm going to do is each of the breakout groups is going to have their own repository where they can keep their code. So we'll have a copy, another copy of the EasyU code, but then it'll have their version of the unit testing code. So even though I said sign up with any provider, I'm really going to come back and change this to sign up with GitHub and sign up with your Illinois email. Um, and if you already have one with your personal email, well, then create another one with your Illinois email, because that's the one that's going to connect to these other uh, repositories that I'm going to be able to create for the teams. All right. Now, what's a Python Anywhere account? Well, Python Anywhere is a hosting framework for Python-based code, and it's a great place to host a Django app. And I think I've been hosting these classes there for 6 years now. The accounts are free. Um, and so that's where we're going to do that. Now, you don't have to have this account until you need to deploy. We don't deploy until like week 10, okay? But get started on this soon. I put it up here because, well, uh, the sooner you start, the better, okay? And now Lucid chart. You'll remember when we went through the roadmap, we were doing conceptual data modeling and logical database design. And to do that, we're going to be drawing entity relationship diagrams. And the tool that we use for it is Lucid chart. Okay, now, and I think we're doing that in weeks 3 and 4. Okay, in fact, we'll go look. Where are we? Roadmap. Yeah, 3 and 4. Okay, so you need Lucid Chart working for the week 3 hand-in assignment and the week 4 hand-in assignment. Okay. Uh, there are like 3 versions of Lucid Chart that you might use. Okay. There's a free to everyone version that's pretty crippled. Okay. There's a free for people at universities version that's less crippled. And I believe this is a version that I used in all the tutorial videos. Since I did those tutorial videos, the Lucid folks had made a deal with the university where they have this Lucid Suite Premium Education Plan for students. It's only $45 a year. And it's less crippled than either of these two. Does it have everything that their full boat enterprise version has? Well, no. But anything that it doesn't have is definitely not anything we would want to use in this course. So here's what I say. If you read through this, it says, try to get this free educational version. Well, if you want to buy this premium education plan, spend your $45 and then you're done. Okay? If you want a free version, you do better with this free educational license, but sometimes it takes a couple of days to get that. And if you can't wait to use it, then sign up for the free to everyone account while you're waiting. Okay. Everybody seems to be able to get this done. And again, the tutorials that I have, I don't use any of the paid features. Okay. In fact, I'll even show you how to get by. I'm a notoriously cheap guy when it comes to trying to use the free software for almost everything. So that's that. So even though I'm saying that the deadline on all this stuff is Sunday at 11:55, you definitely want to make sure that you make good headway on this. Okay. But for instance, everything through this uh, create an Anaconda virtual environment for IS439, you're going to need all that done but to do the assignment that you have to do for week 2. Okay. And then this install Lucidchart. I think we just saw you have to get this done to do the assignment for week 3. Okay, so I'm getting you started on some of these things a little bit early, but then there's plenty of help in the meantime if things go wrong. All right. Is there anything in week 2 I want to show? No. I think I already talked about the rest of the stuff. Excuse me. So right now, I've only got 3 weeks of the schedule up. I'm teaching 3 courses. I have one completely new course. There's a lot of content going up. So I'll be up with the rest of the weeks of the course soon. There'll be more weeks of the course up when we get together on Tuesday. All right. Where does that bring us? Back to the slides. So that's the weekly schedule. Now the syllabus. Now I'm just going to walk through the syllabus and discuss the highlights, okay? You're responsible for reading the entire syllabus and understanding it. And you might say, well, of course we are. But I've got to tell you, I'm always amazed at the people who come to me either in the middle of the semester or the end, and they don't know basic things from the syllabus. They don't know basic things from this introductory lecture. Okay? You tell me, how does that happen? Okay? Definitely read the syllabus, okay? In our first class on Tuesday, well, if you've got questions, we're going to have a Q&A session, okay? The other thing I recommend you doing is that there's a lecture link under the link for this one that you're playing here, that it's not very long and explains participation grading and how that works and is going to be graded. And because that's 15% of your grade, you really ought to play that. Okay? So let's look at the syllabus. Okay? We'll make it a little bigger. Okay, so everything down to instructor, I think we've already talked about. The TA for the course is Colleen Heineman, and Colleen is a great person. She's worked with me as a TA on other courses. This will be the first time that she's a TA for 439. I think you're going to like working with her. I know I'm looking forward to it. The class times Tuesday afternoons from 12:30 to 2:30 in the campus instructional facility 1038, right across from the coffee shop. You couldn't get a more glamorous classroom if you tried. It's a very pretty place. The lab sessions I talked about already. So whatever time we have left on Tuesdays, we'll convert into a lab session. And then if I need to hang around a little bit longer, I will, even if we wind up in the coffee shop. Okay, and then we're going to have our sessions on Friday afternoon from 3 to 4. You come if you need help or you want to be part of it. Okay. Office hours. Neither I nor Colleen are going to have conventional open office hours. Okay, so either come to the labs or open a ticket on our help desk. Okay, sorry, I hazed out there on you. Or if you need an individual meeting okay, with either me or Colleen. Open a ticket on the help desk, and we'll talk about how to do that in a minute. There was a link on Canvas, but somehow I lost that when I was going over the Canvas site. I apologize for that, but odd, we have the same information here. Um, uh, or just open a ticket and say you want an individual meeting. Okay. In fact, I'm going to go back to that Canvas page and just go over a couple things that we missed. Okay. There was the things from Contact Us. Okay. Well, a couple other things too. One thing I didn't talk about was please set your preferred name using student self-service. Okay. Now, we want to use, for your first name, we want to use a name that you really want to be called by. Okay. We're going to use that in class. Okay. We're also going to print up name tags that we're going to use in class so I can remember your names. And you can remember each other's names and mine because I have a name tag too. Okay. And all those things, the name tags and all that stuff, is going to be fed by the university system that will allow you to give a preferred first name. So if you don't want to use the one that's in the system because it's too long or not the name you use, or maybe you're an international student and you've decided that here at the university you want to use some Americanized, kind of alias, um, well, whatever reason, click through on the link and change that as soon as you can. Okay. And if you delay, whenever you do it, it's going to be better than not doing it at all. Okay. Then the other thing I forgot to show you here is, there's an open discussion forum. Okay. This is for you folks to communicate with yourself. Colleen and I will look at it for time to time. Okay. But if you need to get help from Colleen or I, use the help desk. Okay. This isn't the place to get help from us. Okay. But feel free to use that. And Zoom meetings has all the links to these Friday online labs. That's how you find them. Okay. Contact us. So instructor and TA details. Me, I'm the instructor. Colleen Heineman is the TA. Again, I've worked with Colleen a number of times, and I'm really looking forward to working with her again. Don't try to communicate with either of us on using normal email or Canvas messages. I personally don't even know where to find the messages on Canvas, nor do I really want to find out. This help desk is one-stop shopping for communicating with us. Okay. And if we go down to using the help desk, okay. If you want to learn about the help desk, there's a link for that. Okay, and it's an issue tracking system. What's interesting about this system is it's not something you need to log into. You can send an email to a certain email account, and the system responds to your email, and then you can reply to that. And we go back and forth by email. You never have to look at the web app for the help desk at all if you're not inclined to do that. Okay, so it can all be email based. All right, and you can find out things about this here. I've got a link down here where I've got the name of the the course wrong here. I copied these, but the link is the right one. So there's a link here to a page in the user guide. And if you go to this, there's a page on how to compose an email to open a ticket for our course. And it's very specific. And there are links to continue on. If the whole user guide is one-stop shopping for information about how to use the help desk. Okay. The reason that I've used help desk applications for about 10 years. And two things I like. One is that I don't lose your questions and your requests, and I used to lose them all the time. The other one is that when I'm working with TAs or TAs and graders and other helpers, there are times when we want to solve part of a problem and then hand off the rest to another person. Well, when you do that by email, that's just inviting trouble. So this ticket system, this particular one we've been using since the end of the summer of 2023. We used it for all of the fall, and it's working pretty well, and I think you're going to have a good experience. Okay, so that's the stuff I forgot to say about Canvas. So let's go back to the syllabus already in progress. So office hours, we are not going to have open office hours. So come to the lab, or if you need an individual meeting, open a ticket and we'll arrange one on Zoom. Okay. Contacting the instructor in the TA or the TA is the same information that was just on Canvas. The course descriptions I'm going to leave for you to read. Okay. Um, I'll try to distill it here. Um, Developing web applications using back-end frameworks is a really useful skill. Okay. There are other kinds of frameworks. There are front-end frameworks and there are all kinds of things. But back-end frameworks are very popular. And it's the point of view, my point of view in teaching this course is that there is no one killer back-end framework that is the right one for everybody. Okay. So we've picked one, Django, which is a very popular back-end web framework based on Python. And Python's very convenient for us because we support Python pretty strongly at the iSchool. But the fact is that you just can't learn one application framework, right? Because not one meets all the requirements that you might meet in the field. And so the other thing that you need to do is to learn how to evaluate other frameworks for a particular set of functional and non-functional requirements, and that's what we learn how to do when we're writing the paper. Okay, so I'm a Django fan, but just because we're using a Django, I don't think that it solves all the problems of the world. And when you go to do your paper, you realize there's a lot of interesting frameworks out there. The prerequisites, okay, so uh, you have to understand the rudiments of HTML and CSS. There's not a whole lot of HTML and CSS that we don't kind of show you examples of what we want you to do before we ask you to create things on your own. Okay, and we're not asking you to be great web page designers. Okay, you need experience in Python programming. So you should have taken one of our two Python courses, IS430 or IS5. 97 PR or equivalent. Uh, Django apps are pretty much all Python code. Okay, so if you don't know Python, you're going to really be behind the curve. Already having experience in creating dynamic web apps with something like PHP or something like that, it's helpful, but it's not something that you need. Okay, and having already used relational databases or taken a relational database, of course, it's helpful, but that's not required either. Okay. Um, the course outcomes is when you read through this, I want you to be able to do all the things that we talked about when we went through the roadmap. Okay. Um, the text. Okay. So, um, all of the texts are available uh, for free except one. Okay. So the first text that we're going to use, the Vincent text, Django for beginners, revised for Django 4.2, this you have to buy. Okay, you can buy it from the author's website, or you can buy it from Amazon. Okay, and you want to get the revised for Django 4.2. Okay, the rest of the books are available for free on the O'Reilly site. Okay, and if you don't know how to get to books for free on the O'Reilly site, I forget whether we gave you a link to that, but there's a page at the library that shows you how to do that, how to get signed up for the O'Reilly media site. Okay, so the Vincent book we're going to be using in week 2. Okay, uh, the Apple book we're going to use next when we're doing data modeling and database design. The Pinkham book we're going to be taking readings from as we go through, because it was actually the Pinkham book that the EasyU tutorial is kind of designed after. So whereas some of the Django that he has is outdated, the discussion in the beginning of the chapters is always good and always a good kind of introduction to what we're doing for the week. And then here's a book that's a good resource on Git. Okay. Now, the other thing that we're going to be doing is in our work in class, in our breakout groups, we're going to be putting some effort into unit testing the EasyU tutorial code. Okay, and here are a bunch of unit testing books that are available at the O'Reilly site that I think are great books. Okay, and whereas I'm not going to assign readings from these, I think that you guys are going to want to look through these, and we're going to be talking about in class who found their way to what that they found particularly helpful with regard to Django unit testing or unit testing in general. Okay. The computer that you're going to use, I don't think I talked about this already. It should run an up-to-date version of Windows or an up-to-date version of Mac OS. If you really want to use a Linux client, come talk to me and I'll try to talk you out of it. Before you install the software, I'm going to want you to bring your operating system up to date. Okay. Now you may have a Windows machine that won't run Windows 11. Well, that's fine. You can run Windows 10 as long as you've applied all the updates to your Windows 10. Likewise, Like for instance, I have a MacBook Pro that I'm working on right here that runs the most recent release of Mac OS, which is Sonoma. But my personal MacBook Pro, which is a model from 2015, does not. Now, they both do fine with the software that we're using, provided that you apply all the updates that can be applied to that machine. Okay? We haven't had a problem um, with people having computers that were too old. I've had a few people who thought they did, and somehow we find our way around that. Okay. Link here to the weekly schedule. Um, Course elements. We have the readings. Okay. I'm going to tell you in the weekly schedule and in my comments in the classroom from the week before what you ought to be reading. Okay? Uh, do the readings before you come to class and or before you do the assignment. Lectures and videos. Okay? Some of the lectures like this one are pre-recorded. Okay? Well, play them before you come to class. Tutorial videos, we've got two kinds. We have ones for software installation, and then we have, in this course, we have one or two or three or four tutorials a week that we're doing where we're doing follow the leader on the EZU assignments. Okay, so we're going to want you to play those. The coding assignments we're going to want you to do on time, and we're going to want you to just make a good faith effort to get them done on time, and because we're going to want to be able to discuss them when we get class. And I'll talk about how that affects your grading on this in a couple of minutes. Again, the final project is an individual project. Okay, it's not a group project. And the paper is an individual project as well. It's not a group project. All right, and we'll have more information and instructions on those as time goes by. Attendance is required at iSchool classes. So with exceptions for serious illness and other mayhem, we're expecting you to come to class. Okay? Participation. Okay? So 15% of your grade is going to be participation and engagement in the class. That's giant. Okay? That's a letter grade and a half. That's the difference between an A plus and a B. Okay, that's a big distance. Okay, now we have a list here of the things that you get participation points for. Introducing yourself by speaking during the first class, making speaking contributions in class, actively participating in a group breakout session during class, speaking for your group after the breakout session. So if you come to class and you're part of the class, you're going to earn quite a few points and you're going to get a pretty favorable participation grade. But if you don't come to class or you don't engage while you're there, you could really tank your grade. So there's more detail on the grading for this in the lecture that's the link after the one that you're playing here. So please play that. Again, the framework evaluation paper, it's your individual work, it's your evaluation of a back-end server-side web framework, and there's some details here. More details will be forthcoming. I have this section in my syllabus in all my courses these days. It's called Course Grading Policies, and it's got about 14 items in it. And sometimes I kid that this is as long as a contract for leasing a car. And that's probably not true. A contract for leasing a car probably has 28 paragraphs in it. Okay, but it's really long. And when I began to teach at the high school, I didn't have any of this. And over time, I found that people would just find a way to misunderstand what I had thought would be pretty straightforward things about how the grading would be done. Okay, so please do read through this and understand this. I'm not going to go through every one. I'll highlight one or two. Okay. Um, One interesting thing is that a lot of times they get to the end of the course and somebody sees their final letter grade and it's an A minus instead of an A. And they do a little math and they go, oh, geez, if I had gotten 2 more points on something, then I would have an A. And then they write me emails and they say, uh, oh, please, could you increase the score on such and such by 2 points and blah, blah, blah. And my response is always, grade adjustments will be limited to automatic rounding. So it's too late for that. What we will do, though, is this one, regrading requests made using the help desk will be given fair consideration. So if you read the feedback from your assignment that you get with your grade and you say to yourself, you know, I don't think they got that. I don't think they saw what I did. I really do think if they look through it again, they'll give me a higher grade. Well, then open a ticket on the help desk and ask for a regrading, and we'll give it fair consideration. And if it's if we missed something, we missed it. Okay. There are no extra credit opportunities. Okay. And one of the reasons is that what you'll see in a minute is that most of the assignments um, have a grading deal in which you're going to get an 85 or above. So there's no way to really tank your grade, provided that you take advantage of the grading deal. So, what's the grading deal? Well, the grading deal says this on all of your coding assignments: if you hand in your assignment on time and you make a good faith effort on all parts, and if you follow the directions, then you'll get an 85 or higher. Okay? Because we want to be able to discuss the solutions in the next class. And we hand out the solutions in the next class. And so if you're going to do this late, you're going to get the benefit of that. And so if you hand it in on time, make a good faith effort, and follow the directions, you'll get at least an 85. There's no reason to say, oh, I'm going to hand it in 2 weeks late to do a perfect job, because even if you do a perfect job, you're not going to get more than 84. Okay? So keep up with the work, make a good faith effort, follow the directions, and then you're going to have a grade for the coding assignments. It's going to be pretty decent. There's a whole explanation here of how a participation, the points earned are going to be turned into a grade, and there's some detail here. And again, there's a link in the weekly schedule to a short video where I explain it in detail. So I'm not going to explain it again here, but please give this a read and play the video. Uh, there's a bunch of stuff here about academic integrity policies and practices for the course, okay? Now, I'm telling you what we're going to do. All right, we're going to be using a PyCharm Professional. In the current version of PyCharm Professional, and I go through this when I have you install the product. Um, it uses AI to some extent in two feature sets. One feature set is called uh, single line autocomplete or full line autocomplete. Okay. And we're going to have that turned on. Okay. And that gives you a lot of ideas about what you might want to type next, what the syntax is, all that kind of stuff. There is another feature that we're not going to use, which is an AI coding assistant. And someday when you're on in your day job, something like that might help you bang out a lot of boilerplate code. So I'm not saying that it might not be of use to you someday, but it's not of good use to you when you're learning. Okay. And it costs $100 a year, and I really don't want you to use it. Okay. But that full line autocomplete, use it to your heart's content. It it's a mixed blessing because a lot of times it completes the line and it's just what you want. Um, Sometimes it completes the line and it's just a total distraction. Okay, it's kind of interesting, but over time it's going to get better and better. So I think it's promising, and we've been using some kind of autocomplete in Python Professional for a long time, and it's been helpful to learners as well as practitioners in the field. Um, you can you can consult anybody or anything regarding the right way to solve a problem. So you can talk to friends, classmates, roommates, uh, family members. You can type questions into chat GPT. You can go to Stack Overflow. You can go wherever you want. Okay, but after you've consulted people or things or places, now you have to go and type in your code yourself and build your own solution. Okay, there's a lot of people who've believed for a long time who teach programming that a lot of the learning goes on when you're typing. Now, we'll take the full line autocomplete. You don't have to type every character yourself, okay? But there's a lot of us who believe, and there's a lot of evidence for this, is this is where a lot of learning goes on. All right. Um, Anything else? So the basis for determining the grade, okay, the participation is 15%. So please engage with the course. If you do, I think you're going to find those fairly easy points to earn. The coding assignments are worth 35% of the grade. The framework evaluation paper is worth 20% of the grade, and the final project is worth 30% of the grade. The number grades, after having been rounded to whole numbers, are converted to letter grades using this table. When I came to the iSchool in 2008, somebody gave me this, and I've never changed it. So, And I want to recommend, I want to remind you again, okay, once we round these to whole numbers and convert them, that's it. That's all the adjusting that we're going to do. Now, the last part of this is both kind of mundane and yet it's very important. It's mundane in the following way. These iSchool and university academic policies are boilerplate. This is a sort of a legal term for contracts where a lot of contracts have a lot of clauses and paragraphs in them. They're the same in every contract. Okay. Well, that's true of these syllabi. Okay. So the syllabi for your other classes at the iSchool should say pretty much the exact same thing. So if you've read them and you understand them and you know how important they are, then great, you're probably done. Okay. But they are really important things. Okay. So I want to make sure that if you haven't read and understand them, that you do. Okay. Because they're about important things like what are the situations and you can get an incomplete grade? What are the rules about academic integrity? What, how committed are we to creating an inclusive learning environment, and what's that going to mean for you? Um, what if you need help in finding a way to honor religious observances? Uh, what if you need what if you need accommodations related to accessibility? Okay, and then what are we expecting you to do with regard to COVID? Right. So again, if you've already thought about all these, well, great. Okay. If you haven't, please read and think. And if you've got questions or you need help, come to me. All right. Now, I'm not always the person to help on these things, but I'm the person to direct you to whoever you're going to need to get help from. All right. So that's the syllabus. All right. Let's go back and take one final look at our slides. They're here. Okay. Um, so, um, so please get started on the work that's in the weekly schedule for week one. We've got some things to read and some stuff to play here before we meet on Tuesday, so please do that. And then, of course, at the end of the week, we have a lot of things that need to be installed and those and configured. So please make an early start on that because a good half of that needs to be in place in order to do the work for week two. Okay. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you, I say on January 11th, so that can't be true. I think I meant to say January 16th. Okay. So we're meeting on Tuesday, January 16th, right? Let's go to week one. Tuesday, January 16th at 12:30. And I can't tell you enough, the classroom is really cool. So I'm pretty excited that we're going to be in it. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun. This is a fun course. You know, you build stuff, it's really concrete. It's a lot of fun. So I'm going to wrap up here. I'll see you Tuesday, and I'm going to say bye until then. Bye-bye.